Welcome back, everybody. Happy Tuesday here on Fernando Mendoza today. Oh, excuse me. No, Silver and Black today, an Odyssey Sports original podcast covering your Las Vegas Raiders. Your hosts for this journey today. I'm Scott Gulbransen, along with my partner here, Mr. Mo Moton, Mo's senior NFL writer at Bleacher Report, also Raiders columnist at sportsnot.com. I would tell you where to follow him, but we're not going to do that today, and we'll explain that again in case you missed it in just a second. But Mo also here with me. You can follow the show on X at SMB Today, and I am at LV Gully. And Mo, just to get people who might have, just checked out or whatever with the Raiders season over last week, unfortunately, your X.com account was hacked, and it's being used for nefarious reasons. Why don't you just give everybody a quick update, what happened and where you're at with that? Because I know I've gotten a lot of messages, a lot of people concerned. A lot of people believe that we only live online and that if you're not online posting on X, that perhaps something terrible has happened to you, which is, of course, thank God, is not the case with you, Mo. But get everybody up to speed. I just want to start that off at the end of the show because so many people love interacting with you and following your work there. So let everybody know what's going on, where you're at with it, and if there's anything they can do.
I felt a little under the weather over the past weekend, but I am alive and well, people. You got an AI generated image of me. It's actually Mo Moton. But I've sent out, Scott, on my behalf, thanks to Scott, posted 2 videos last week explaining to people that my account was hacked last Monday. It actually happened right after our previous show. And there have been crypto links posted on my timeline, DMs sent out to people. Do not answer those DMs for me. If you're getting a DM from me, do not answer them. I rarely answer DMs myself. I rarely respond to DMs. People who've interacted with me know this, or I respond very slowly because of the workload that I have. So if you're getting a DM from me, asking to click any link, vote for me on a podcast, crypto, anything about anything, any link for me, do not answer it. Right. So that's the story with my account and why I haven't been posting and why you've been seeing non-sports related weird things on my timeline. If my account has blocked you, again, that is not me blocking you. It's whoever the hacker is doesn't obviously want people to report the account, because I've actually told people to report the account if you can, just to kind of knock it offline for a while so that doesn't DM other people. That hasn't worked because the Twitter support team, the X support team, is not cooperating with me right now, and they've questioned whether it is me really running the account and not some hacker posting crypto, which is odd to me. But
Mm.
that's the with my account right now. I hope to get it back soon. I have to reopen a case on Thursday, and I will do that, and I'll keep you updated on the process if anything changes.
Yeah, just crazy. And in the business that you're in journalism, with the importance of online and interaction, it's inexcusable, frankly, that X, because they've turned things over to AI with just every day, which I understand to a certain degree, but there should be some sort of escalation process. And it doesn't matter even as a journalist, yes, of course, but also as just a normal user of the platform, especially a paying user, you should be able to escalate things in a rather quick fashion, and it's unfortunate. So keep up to date, and as Mo hands me information on where he's at with it, I'll of course share that. We'll share it from the show as well. But just again, it's very important. Do not take anything from Mo, DMs or anything like that, because he's not in control of the account, and we don't want you to have the same issue. But we will, here at Silver and Black Today, we will keep you up to date on that. So we'll give you the latest information. And when he gets the all clear and he gets it back and it's really him, he'll let you know so that you can have those fun interactions again. All right. Well, we're back talking Raiders football, and we got to start with what we saw last night in the college football playoff, the college football national championship. Indiana, the greatest, and Mo, I'm going to go on a limb here. I don't think it's a limb at all, but I'm going to say that. This is the greatest college football story in history, and that is the Indiana program, which has been moribund for its entire existence since 1899, wins the national championship, only 3 seasons removed from being one of the bottom dwellers in all of college football, not just the Big Ten, but college football. they win a national championship under Kurt Signetti. And of course, a young man who I know Raider Nation is now very fond of, in that, of course, Fernando Mendoza, who goes out and wins the game, had yet another Hollywood moment with the run for a touchdown, leaping into the end zone and kind of giving, in a game that didn't have a lot of huge momentum swings. That was one of them. And then, of course, Indiana with the late interception of Carson Beck to seal the deal. But Fernando Mendoza did this with the entire top brass of the Raiders on the field. Tom Brady, John Spytek, Mark Davis, and even a couple of the other minority owners were on the field. There's saw a video of Mark Davis pregame standing in the back of the end zone, just watching Fernando Mendoza do it. And so, Mo, everybody's all in on Fernando Mendoza. Now, again, the kid is incredible. I think we'll talk a little bit about what separates him from other quarterbacks so far this year. Not a great quarterback class, obviously, but it was incredible to watch what he did in a game where he didn't throw a touchdown. Now, he didn't throw an interception either because he doesn't throw them that often. He had the one running touchdown. But I think this is the kind of guy, Mo, for all of you. And again, I'm not anti anybody, but the Mike Florio story yesterday about the Raiders could trade the first pick for Lamar Jackson. Just stop. Just stop. But Mo, you look at a kid like Fernando Mendoza, and you still don't know if what's going to happen in the professional ranks. But this is the kind of kid, and I think, Mo, I'm going to go this far. This is exactly the kind of guy I think the Raiders franchise needs to reset for once after 30 plus years, needs to reset. This is the kind of guy you can build around.
The great silver and black reset is upon us still, and maybe the great reset of my account.
Huh.
But watching Fernando Mendoza last night, right? The 4th and 5 play where he runs into, bounces off defenders, stretches the ball out to score that touchdown. Like you said, he didn't throw for 200 yards. He didn't throw a touchdown, didn't throw an interception, but he's the type of gamer that can translate to the pros. And people are going to dissect him and say he doesn't do this well. He's not a smooth mover. He has mobility, but he's not a smooth athlete, which he isn't. Well, because he's about 6'5". He's a big football player. But they're going to pick apart his game. But what I look at is when it's down in the clutch, a 2-minute drive, a fourth quarter drive, when you have that gotta have it play, whether it's a pass, a pinpoint pass on the sideline to Surratt, or a run up the middle for a touchdown to put his team up in the lead and help his team to victory. What does that quarterback do? Does he freeze up in big moments? Does he shrink in big moments? Because we see that in a lot of NFL. We're seeing pro quarterbacks right now. We've championed C.J. Stroud in the past. C.J. Stroud not playing well when it comes to those big moments. And you've watched that game this past weekend. You talk about quarterbacks in the pros. Josh Allen, even reigning MVP, shrinking in a big moment in a divisional round. When you talk about Fernando Mendoza and what he's done at Indiana, and specifically this year, in big moments, he's risen to the occasion. I remember the game against Oregon during the regular season, had a big throw. We just talked about his run last night. That's the type of player with those type of intangibles that you want leading your franchise, leading your offense.
Right. And I'm in no way, let me make this clear, comparing him to Tom Brady. But with Tom Brady sitting on the sideline, because remember, Tom Brady, before he won 6 Super Bowls, was not an incredible specimen either. He was not an incredible athlete who you looked at and said, woo, like a Lamar Jackson. Those guys were just blowing your head up because they're so athletic. The athletic ability is so great that they impress you with every single throw and this and that. But you touched on it, which is the intangible. What makes a champion? A champion is just not a talented athlete, but it is leadership ability. It is the ability to make big plays, as you said, in big moments. And that's what Fernando Mendoza did on the biggest stage, right? Now, again, he didn't have his best game, but that's what the great ones, potentially great ones, do, which is they, at big moments, step up. Tom Brady, I can go through years of tape, and there's some justification to say, well, boy, Tom Brady was just a check down guy. He just checked down. Might be true at a technical standpoint, but in those moments, what did he do? He won. He just got them over the hump. And you mentioned some of the quarterbacks like C.J. Stroud, who there's now legitimate deep questions on whether CJ Stroud's even a franchise quarterback, right? Because he had the first year, second year, third year have not been great. So to me, it's such a no brainer. I don't think the Raiders will do anything but take Fernando Mendoza. If you had any doubt before last night and before the Monday night's game, the championship game, I think that's gone now. But I do think, yes, you're going to read people who pick apart his game, and there's justification for that. There are things every college quarterback coming out, no matter how talented, have to work on at the NFL level. But as I was arguing with my buddy, who's a big Ohio State guy, and he didn't want to accept how good Indiana uh, was that you don't just look at college. Who did he play? Well, he didn't play this schedule. He didn't play that schedule. But the difference is looking at, and Mo, you watch a lot of tape, looking at his skill set and how that translates to the next level, throwing those, and he had a couple on Monday night too of those difficult out patterns, and not only that, but reading the defenses. Miami's a very good defense, very physical, and they came to play. They had a good game, but you watched what he did, and he went through his progressions. Now, the average fan doesn't necessarily pay attention to the quarterback progressions. Last night, I really watched it, and I saw him go to the third receiver as he checked across the field. That's what the pro scouts and what the Raiders are looking at and saying, okay, if this kid gets that now, all the other things that we can work on, yeah, we'll get that. That's physical or what it is around execution. But that stuff, Mo, that's really what you're looking for if you're a pro team looking to draft Fernando Mendoza.
Before my ex was hacked, I had a post just kind of trolling the people who said, "Oh, Fernando Mendoza, look who he threw his touchdown passes against. It was against Townsend and all of these lower ranked collegiate programs." And now we're at the point where he's played Oregon, he's played Ohio State, he's played Miami. All those respectable to good defenses, and in all of those games, I saw Fernando Mendoza make game-winning plays.
Yep.
In every one of those defenses, he made game-winning plays. Were his stats off the charts and jumping up the screen? No, but did he make the plays to win football games for his football team? And the answer is yes. And if you're watching those games, you can't tell me he just beat up on bad schools. You play who you play, what the schedule is laid out. But
Sure.
when it came to championship games, he stepped up. He rose to the occasion. As I said, he made the throws. He had the runs. He scored the touchdowns. It's on the screen for you. What more, as I usually say, what more do we need to see? I don't think Tom Brady and Mark Davis and company were down there to see Carson Beck. Just from my standpoint, I don't think they were down there to say, you know what, we're thinking about Carson Beck at the end of day 2, at the beginning of day 3. No, they were there to see up close in person, is Fernando Mendoza really that dude? And I think he answered that question emphatically.
He sure did. And I'll tell you what, I think you look at that and what he did in the championship game, the intangibles we talked about, the leadership ability. Then you see him after the game, of course, the interviews, and I know some of you tough guys out there, oh, he's a geek. Who cares? What a good human being, right? So you think about what this is going to be, the face of your organization. I know Max Crosby's there. It's a different vibe, but this is the face. This guy, what he does, you saw him walking around because National Championship Week, of course, they had all the media things, they had all the different events. It's like the Super Bowl, right? So you have all those different things going on. I mean, how many videos did I see of Fernando Mendoza breaking away from the organized activities to go sign autographs for kids? And not just to sign autographs for kids, but to talk to them, like to engage in conversation. We saw Josh Allen do that in Buffalo too with kids as well. But you look at that as well off the field. Isn't that what, as a fan and as an organization, you want somebody who's going to represent you and is going to be somebody who people can aspire to be, to look up to? And yes, he's got to perform on the field. Don't get me wrong. You could be the nicest guy in the world. If you can't play the football at the level that you need to win in the NFL, then yes, that all goes by the wayside. But to me, that piece of it as well, Mo, this is going to be the opportunity for the Raiders to get so much better on the field, and they got a lot of other work to do. But also, it gives them the opportunity to earn new fans, right? Now, Raider Nation, I know for all you diehards who've been there for 30, 40, 50, 60 years, whatever your fandom has how long it's been there, doesn't matter. You want new people in Raider Nation, and I think he's going to bring some of those people as well. And it's just a great American story. And that's the thing. I was talking to somebody here at the studio today about sports because he was telling me his wife's not a big sports fan, blah, blah. And I go back to the human interest story, Mo. This is a lot. We all love the sport and talking about the sport and watching the sport, but there are so many. And to me, what makes sports great is those personal human stories. And yes, he didn't grow up with living in a car or any of that kind of stuff. And those are great stories too. But this kid and what he's done, he said it after the game. He walked away from a walk-on offer. He was a 2-star recruit out of high school. That perseverance, that discipline to get to where he's gotten, man, Raider Nation, this is going to be a guy you're going to fall in love with if you already aren't.
And the other thing is, it shows progression. You just said it. 2-star recruit goes to, wanted to, I guess, play at Miami, didn't happen. Cal, Indiana. Indiana was a bottom feeding program, as we talked about offline. And to help build up that program to go on an undefeated season, 16-0. And the performances he's had in the playoffs, to come back to Miami, the area he grew up in, with his parents in the stands, mom battling MS. There is a human story to Fernando Mendoza. Like you say, he may have not had he may not have had a story that some other guys have had, homelessness, living in a car, struggling, but there is a human element to his story and his rise from a 2-star recruit to a college football champion.
Yeah, absolutely. And just amazing. I mean, and the one thing I know from Raider Nation, and I don't mean this always by blood either, but Murph talks about it a lot on the post game shows, and he talks about it with Jeff and Michelle on Raider Fan Radio, which is Raider Nation really feels like, and they look at each other as a family. Well, here's a guy who's rooted in family, right? His own family. But imagine what he's going to be like in Raider Nation. I think you're going to get that same mentality from him and what he brings to the table. Now they got to build an offensive line around him. They got to fix the defense. They got a lot of work to do, which we'll talk about coming up. But still, it's phenomenal. It's a great story, and all those years. Now it's not going to fix itself overnight. That's the one thing I want to say. He's not Christ. He's not coming in to to be the savior in a month, right? It's gonna take time. He's gonna have his own struggles, as every player does coming into the NFL. But I think for once, and for me covering the team for 9 years, Mo, for once you kind of feel like, boy, did they finally get the train on the track? And it's early, so we got to make sure there's no speed bumps along the way. But it feels like things are finally falling into place for this team.
Maybe it's the Raider fan in me, of course, you don't want to see anyone get hurt. But the
Right.
Raider fan in me just thinking, please, Fernando, don't get hurt. Because we know he is not, he has the willingness to take off with the football. He's not the most athletic. He's mobile, but he's not a smooth athlete. And sometimes he takes these clunky hits and you kind of worry, and when he took off and ran that ball into the end zone, I'm just thinking, don't get hurt. Don't, because you're thinking, what bad can happen? You have the first overall pick. It's almost a shoo-in that you're gonna get this guy. The last thing you want is an injury of any kind before he gets drafted. And I'm hoping he plays well, go all out, as he said, put his heart, put his body on the line for his football team, for his guys. But please, just don't get hurt before the Raiders draft you, because we need you to be on the field for week 1.
Absolutely. It's going to be fun. I think the next few months, of course, you got to wait till April to make it official. But I'm going to say this because, Raider fans, more than any other fan base, and I know a lot of fans do the same thing in other teams, but Raider fans and their jersey obsession, I think you can order your Fernando Mendoza jersey. I'm like 99.9% sure you can go ahead and order it. 15 Mendoza, go ahead. I expect you guys to post pictures within the next few days, because I saw the conversation last night and people were like, oh my gosh, no question. So we'll see. Now we're going to take our break. When we come up next, we're going to talk about the other big decision that needs to fall here for the Raiders. And a lot of action has been happening on the NFL coaching front. The Raiders, of course, looking for their new head coach. They've interviewed everybody but me and Mo, which is good. And we'll talk about that because remember 2 years ago, they didn't interview anybody when they picked Antonio Pierce. So we'll get into that right after the break. You're with Scott and Mo. This is Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey Sports original podcast. Don't go anywhere. All right, it's championship weekend. AFC Championship, of course, is the Broncos and the Patriots, two teams that Raider Nation just loves, plus the Rams and the Seattle Seahawks. On the NFC side, we're talking about sleeper now. We're going to do daily fantasy picks with you. Mo's going to share through his crystal ball, which is not connected to X, so he can still access it. Mostradamus is going to give us picks here for sleeper picks. And by the way, if you haven't already done sleeper picks, you got 2 weekends left to do it, right? You got this weekend coming up, and then in a couple weeks with the Super Bowl to get on and do this and to take advantage of this great deal we've had all season long. And that is, go get the Sleeper app for free. It doesn't cost you anything. You go up, you make a deposit up to $100, and they're going to match it up to $100. Get ready for the Super Bowl, folks, and championship weekend. Get your account now and bet along with us there to do that. All you got to do is use the code GENTY. That's GENTY to get that deposit match again up to $100. Okay, Mo, we're going to dive in on this. And I know you're specifically dialed in. We're going to start with rushing plus receiving yards for these games coming up. So give it to me, man. Let everybody know how they're going to make a little money with Mo.
So I'll start off by saying be careful with the anytime touchdowns. I think both these games are going to be pretty low scoring. There's some good defenses in these matchups. So I'll start with, as Scott said, rushing plus receiving yards for RJ Harvey. If you haven't heard, Bo Nix fractured a bone in his ankle. He won't play. Jarrett Stidham will be the starter. Raider Nation knows Jarrett Stidham, by the way. I think they're going to be a lot of dump off passes. So RJ Harvey, rushing plus receiving yards, take the over. RJ Harvey is going to be busy on the ground and as a pass catcher in the short passing game.
Mo, do you want to go with the 64.5 or do you want to go with the 40?
I'll go with the 40.
Okay, so RJ Harvey, and again, this is rushing plus receiving yards. Over 40 for RJ Harvey is Mo's first pick. All right.
Another unheralded name, tight end Hunter Henry. I'm taking the over on his receptions. The Denver Broncos are giving up the third most receiving yards to tight ends. I think Hunter Henry is going to be busy. Let me actually see what his receiving yards total is.
Okay, let's go over to that game. Receptions, Hunter Henry is 3.5 receptions, Mo.
And what about his receiving yard total?
Let's go to his receiving yard total for Hunter Henry. Boom, 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 boom. Receiving yards. Click there. If you're watching us, you know what I'm doing. 41.5.
Okay, give me the over on reception. Sorry about that. I just wanted to check
That's okay.
I'll take the over on receptions. I think he's going to have at least 4 receptions. Again, Denver is susceptible to the pass catching tight end. They have been all year. They're giving up the third most receiving yards to tight end this season. Hunter Henry is going to be busy in that AFC Championship game.
Okay, Mo, you got one more pick.
My last pick, if you haven't heard about this, Zach Charbonnet tore his ACL in the divisional round beatdown of the San Francisco 49ers, which means Kenneth Walker is going to be busy. He was busy against the Rams in previous matchup. He'll be busy in the NFC Championship game. I'll take the over on his rushing plus receiving yards as well.
All right, so let me get to the rushing plus receiving yards so we can get to there. We're passing rush, the rushing receiving yards. And we have for Kenneth Walker 114.5 on the high end. Right now, the most picked number, Mo, is 100 plus.
I'll go back on my word. Give me the anytime touchdown for Kenneth Walker. That is a steep number.
It's a really steep number. Absolutely. So anytime touchdown, and we're going Kenneth Walker, just one. So it's 0.5. It's one. It's a half a touchdown. So we'll go with that. Okay, cool. There we go. Kenneth Walker with an anytime touchdown. All right. So now you're going to play daily fantasy football along with Mostradamus and our pals at Sleeper Picks. You have Harvey from the Broncos, 40 plus reception plus receiving yards. I want to make sure that's clear again for you guys out there. Hunter Henry with over 3.5 receptions, and then Kenneth Walker with the over on the half anytime touchdown. And if you're going to play daily fantasy football with us, $20 on Sleeper is going to net you $55.20 there. Thanks to Mo and Sleeper. Mo's been picking them good, man. So you got to make sure you get in there, play it with us. And don't forget, you get a deposit match up to $100 by just using the code you only get here from Silver and Black today, and that's GENTY. Use the code GENTY when you sign up and get that app, and you're going to get that deposit match up to $100. A reminder, make sure you check out the app and the website for rules and regulations around. It's not available in every state, but most likely in your state. And don't forget to use the code GENTY from our folks at Sleeper Picks. Good luck, everybody. Enjoy the games. Welcome back, home stretch here on this edition of Silver and Black Today, an Odyssey Sports original podcast. Moton, Scott Gulbransen back with you. Okay, we got the Mendoza stuff out of the way, which is going to be a lot of conversation as well. Mo, do you think people already have framed pictures of Fernando Mendoza in their Raider shrines?
I believe they had those framed pictures weeks ago for the people who are already on the Mendoza train. Once the Raiders started to spiral, and after the Giants won that football game, we beat the Dallas Cowboys to secure the Raiders' #1 spot in the draft. I think at that point, people started to, make their plans to get on the Mendoza bandwagon.
Yes, and we know now with the Raiders being in Las Vegas, and of course the Taj Mahal that is Allegiant Stadium, they have these big acts come in to do music at halftime. They've had Carlos Santana, they've had all these great acts come in. Now, will they get ABBA to do their I mean, I'm just kidding. I don't think ABBA performs anymore, but they do have holograms or something like that. But anyway, Fernando Mendoza Mania is a real thing, and he's going to take over and become the king of Las Vegas very, very soon. But there's still one big decision. There's so many big decisions this team has to make this offseason. But another, besides the quarterback, Fernando Mendoza, the other one is who's going to coach this puppy? Who's going to be the head coach for the Raiders? And the Raiders, as I said before the break, Mo, they've interviewed, I think they're up to 13 or 14 people. Now, some news over the last few days, some of the coaches that they were going to interview or have interviewed, or that some of you were clamoring for out there, have taken jobs. We start with Robert Saleh, who took, that's the latest, took the job with the Tennessee Titans. Jeff Hafley, who they interviewed, of course, he was the defensive coordinator of the Packers. He is now going to be the Miami Dolphins head coach. Kevin Stefanski went to the Atlanta Falcons. And of course, John Harbaugh, we know, is going to the Giants. So some of those big names have fallen. A lot of the guys that are out there, I had somebody really frustrated reach out to me on Xmo saying, what's taking so long? And why are they interviewing? So if they knew that this is a cluster, because if they knew who they wanted, they would have just gone and got him. And I had to remind them gently and respectfully that, hey, maybe the coach they're trying to really go after, and we know this from who they're interviewing, is still in the playoffs, i.e. Clint, Kubiak, and some of these other guys. So, Mo, you look at that situation where the Raiders are, I believe taking the time, doing all of this right, is such a good sign for this franchise who has and I really equate it to Mark Davis has taken himself out of the situation. He said, Tom Brady, John Spytek, they're running it. Now, we've heard the reports, well, Tom Brady's running it all. Okay, take that with a grain of salt. He's involved clearly with Spytek. They're close. They're Michigan buddies, the whole thing. But you look at the names, Jesse Minter, you look at, of course, I mentioned Clint Kubiak, some of these other guys, and also Kubiak, the other Kubiak who could come in on defense. I remind people, Mo, that they are interviewing these people. They have their target, I'm sure, their number one target, but they also have fallback plans. And the more people you talk to, you get more familiar with, those people might not get the head coach job, but they could become an offensive or a defensive coordinator as well.
Yeah, I said that about Davis Webb. While I don't think he'll be a head coach in this cycle, though a lot of people have spoke highly of him. I say again, he's only been a coach for 3 years. I remember him being the Giants' second, third string quarterback. So he's a brand new coach in that profession, in that lane. So even if he's not hired as the head coach, I said it last week on Twitter. I said it here too. I could see him being the OC under a defensive minded head coach. We'll see. But to the people who are a bit impatient about the process, this is far better than the process that they had before they hired Antonio Pierce. I'd rather my team take their time with candidates and cast a wide net than to zero in on one guy and say, whatever, I don't care who we interview, this is our guy. Because the Titans just made a decision to hire Robert Saleh early Tuesday morning, late Monday, depending on what time zone you're in. And the reports out were that Matt Nagy was going to be the head coach of the Titans because of his ties with Mike Borgonzi, who has ties with him going back to Kansas City. Reports
Mhm.
are Titans sat down with Robert Saleh and he absolutely impressed them, blew them away in his interview, and they decided to pivot from Matt Nagy to Robert Saleh. And I say that because you never know how an interview is going to go. You may have your sights set on one or two candidates, and then you bring in a guy and you're like, wow, he's a defensive guy, but he has a good plan for an OC. He has a great plan for what we're trying to do. He is the best candidate for the job. And I say all of that again to say it's best to have an open mind than a closed mind when it comes to these head coaching interviews.
100%. And I think that, again, too, you're interviewing some of these other guys who might, like you talked about Davis Webb, who might not be ready. But also, if you look at some of the connections to the candidates and where they've come from, you could start putting things together. Mike LaFleur with the Rams, another guy I really, really, really like,
Yeah, me too.
is a good option there too. And they also interviewed, and his name's escaping me, from the Rams to the offensive coordinator. Um, not LaFleur, but the passing
Passing
game
game
guy.
coordinator.
Yes, Millhouse or whatever, not Millhouse, but so again, if they were to go with Mike LaFleur, then he might bring him with him as well. So there's opportunities there. But yes, I understand the impatience about it because you want to see your team move forward and you want to get the coaching staff there. But this tells me that again, they're targets, because I think you do. Even with the Pete Carroll hire, Pete Carroll was clearly a plan B or C. He was
Mhm.
not the guy they were intending to. They were going after Ben Johnson, who really who gave a courtesy interview because of Tom Brady, but wasn't really interested in the Raider job. The Raider job now, Mo, that's what we got to talk about. We just spent a whole segment talking about Fernando Mendoza. The fact that you have 10 draft picks, the fact that you now know that Tom Brady and John Spytek are running the football side, and you have $120 million in cap space. This job, despite the dumpster fire that has been the organization over the last 3 decades, is a lot more appealing than it was, even 3 or 4 months ago.
Yeah, I remember ESPN put out a rankings of the head coaching openings. Now there were more openings before that happened. After that happened, after that article was put out, but he had the Raiders ranked last.
Mm-hmm.
And I said it on Twitter. I said, hey, the Raiders, if they get the number one overall pick, you're going to have to change your rankings. And now that the Raiders have some type of structure, and Mark Davis laid it out in that statement after they fired Pete Carroll, that look, it's going to be the John Spytek show, and he's working in tandem with Tom Brady. So you know what the structure is. There isn't some convoluted. Now maybe Jim Gray is still going to be involved in some capacity. Who knows? The Jim Gray rumors are still out there. We don't know, but far as we know, it's John Spytek and Tom Brady. So there's your structure. You have the number one overall pick. You're eyeing Fernando Mendoza. You have a ton of cap money to spend. There are multiple reasons why this job is an attractive job, other than people can say, well, they have had so much turnover. They're firing coaches left and right. Look how many coaches Mark Davis is paying. And what do we say, Scott, on the show? You fire and hire until you get it right. I
Mm-hmm.
remember the firing coach after coach after coach, and finally it seems like they got the right guy in D'Amico Ryans, and it's worked out just fine. Now they need to get past the divisional round, and maybe that's a problem with their offense and CJ Stroud, but they got the right head coach. So I say, look, we can see very early that Pete Carroll wasn't going to work with the Las Vegas Raiders. His timeline just didn't match. You move on. But the Raiders have to sell this candidate, whoever they hire, that look, your situation is not the same as Pete Carroll's. You're going to have time to build your football team, your culture, your program with a young quarterback. We're going to give you some time. We know the first year may be rocky with a rookie and some changes, but you're going to have time to build this football team in your vision. I think that's enough to sell a top candidate to come to Las Vegas.
Absolutely. And again, this is, you're not used to it, Raider Nation, right? You're used to the wheels falling off. So I understand the trepidation of like, what's going on? Why can't they hire a coach? And again, I think that we're going into championship weekend coming up in the NFL, and there's what, four coaches, four of the coaches they've interviewed are in that playoff. It might even be a couple more, I can't remember, but just know that's a good sign, because you have to wait for these guys. The NFL rules are very clear. They've had initial interviews with some of those that are still involved in the playoffs with the Rams, the Seahawks, and so on. But they have to let it play out. And I would imagine whoever, if their top guy is Clint Kubiak, and the Seahawks lose to the Rams, they could move very quickly right after that because they need to get to work. And of course, they want their head coach online. But the head coach knows already, whoever the head coach is going to be, who his quarterback's going to be. And in this league where quarterback play is heavily tied in most cases to the success of your team and your job, that's a big
Mhm.
one. It's a big one. Not only that, but then you say, well, I got the running back in Ashton Genty. I have Brock Bowers. Okay. So
Mhm.
I got pieces there. We just need to put the rest of it together. And if John Spytek and Tom Brady have sold you the right bill of goods as far as this is what we're going to do, this is our plan, that's what you got to do. And you have to build it the right way. There's no quick fixes. For those of you thinking that even with Fernando Mendoza, this team's going to go to the Super Bowl next year, crazy stuff happens. Yes. I won't say it can't happen, but it's not going to happen in my view. So you got to build it the right way. Mo, I am interested though, because I know Joe Brady came up on the list. Now, as of the time of this show we're recording, Joe Brady, is there a chance he's elevated to head coach in Buffalo with Sean McDermott getting fired? I think there's a good chance of that because of his relationship with Josh Allen, unless Buffalo really just wants a clean slate and bring somebody else and a new staff in. But there are other good jobs out there. That's one of them, obviously, because you got that quarterback in this team. The Bills have gotten so far, they just can't get over that final hump. They couldn't get over the Kansas City hump. That finally wasn't an issue. And then they seem to fall apart this year as well. But when you look at the landscape now, Mo, and you see the guys that are out there still in the playoffs, if you had to make a bet today, and now we just talked about sleeper making the picks, but if you had to make the bet today with the remaining jobs open versus the Raiders position, who's it going to be? Who do you think is going to get this role?
I'm gonna say Clint Kubiak or Mike LaFleur. Clint Kubiak, the offensive coordinator of the Seahawks, or Mike LaFleur, the offensive coordinator of the Rams. Now, you mentioned how many of the candidates the Raiders have interviewed that are still their teams are still in the playoff. You got Vance Joseph, Davis Webb, the pass game coordinator for the Rams, Nate Shahasky, I think his name is pronounced.
Tallahassee, yeah, you're right.
They got Chris Shula, the defensive coordinator, Michael Ford, who I just mentioned, and Clint Kubiak. So I think the chances the Raiders picking from the Sean McVay tree are very high. I know everyone who's come from the McVay tree hasn't worked out. They had Zach Robinson go be the OC in Atlanta, and Falcons fans weren't too happy with the usage of Bijan Robinson, excuse me. But as far as like you look at some of the people that come from Sean McVay's coaching tree, I talked about Matt LaFleur. I know Packers fans wanted to run him out of town to losing to the Bears. I get it, but look at his coaching record. Kevin O'Connell coaching record. Look at what he's done in Minnesota. So I think if you're putting bets down, there's a good chance that the Raiders are going to hire someone from McVay's coaching tree. But I wouldn't be surprised if Kubiak looks at that number one overall pick, looks at all of that cap space the Raiders are going to have, and say, if I'm going to go anywhere, I'm going to go somewhere where they're going to have the number one overall pick, and I can have Fernando Mendoza.
Exactly. And I agree with you. I think it's Kubiak or it's LaFleur. And I think either one of them, I think Kubiak's with a little more experience, obviously,
Yeah.
is maybe just a step above LaFleur. But I think either way, if either of them get the job, I think it's a good hire by the Raiders and a lot to be excited about if you're a member of Raider Nation. Because look, again, we've said all along, Mo, you don't rule out a defensive minded coach. But
No.
with where this is going and where your number one pick is, and what we saw in Chicago with Ben Johnson, I think that model has worked really, really well. And I think it would work well for the Raiders. So that's where it go. Go ahead, Mo.
One quick thing. If they do hire a defensive head coach, I think the guy would be Jesse Minter. Not just because of his Michigan ties to Brady and Spytek, but because of what he's done with that Chargers defense, despite some injuries that they've had. And also the Harbaugh coaching tree is also pretty impressive for a lot of people. So if Minter comes in and he has a list of impressive names for his offensive coordinator job, or if he's willing to team up with Davis Webb, a Jesse Minter Davis Webb combination, that could also be attractive for the Raiders.
Absolutely. And Minter obviously knows the AFC West from this
Yep.
past year, too, as well, which helps, too. So all good. All right, Mo. Let everybody know what you got coming up this week. Since they can't track you as much, obviously on X, they can always go to Bleacher Report to see your stuff. And of course, Sports Now, but let them know what's coming up.
So I got this new crypto coin. No, I'm kidding.
Captain Crypto.
No, seriously. I'm over at Sports Not still. Instead of doing a boring rankings like my top 5 candidates for the Raiders, I'm going to do pros and cons for the top candidates that have interviewed for the Raiders. So I'll give you the positives and the negatives for each candidate. So basically giving you a full picture of what you could get with each candidate.
Nice. And I will make sure that I post the links to that. Mo will send them to me from the show and
Mhm.
from my own account as well, which I usually just retweet Mo, but now with this situation, he'll send it to me and I will make sure we get that up so you guys can see it. I'll pin it to the top of both the Silver and Black Today handle and mine as well, so it'll be easy for you to find. Phew, all right. That's it. Lots going on, man. It's going to be fun as we move forward with this off season. My friend, take care and we'll talk to you very, very soon.
Take care, Scott. Take care, Raider Nation.
All right. For our producer, Mike Robbie at Odyssey, for Moton, I'm Scott Gulbransen. This has been Silver and Black Today. Don't forget, if you don't already subscribe to the podcast, what are you doing? Make sure you do. There's going to be a lot going on. You don't want to miss out on that. So wherever you find your podcast, just look for Silver and Black Today. Don't forget to rate and review. If you're watching us on video on YouTube or Rumble or X, wherever you are, make sure you also subscribe there. Hit that thumbs up if you would. We appreciate that very, very much. Also, don't forget to hit the notifications bell so you know every time we have a new video. All right, Raider Nation, enjoy the off season. Go ahead and order that Mendoza jersey, and we will talk to you next time. Take care.